Hey, 8th grade, Mr. Herzberg here. Today is Wednesday, middle of the week, April 15th. That means today being Wednesday, we've got Fahrenheit 451 to read, and we've got the journal. So let's get started on the journal and we'll go from there. All right, your journal for today, you're going to be reading 3 paragraphs about kids these days being criticized for being couch potatoes or lazy. You're going to read some statistics about that. You're going to read why is it kids these days would rather sit on their couch in front of a phone or a TV or a tablet and do that than go outside and be with their friends. Also, you're going to answer 2 questions. What is the central idea of the passage? And then you're going to write, the second one, a brief summary of the passage. I want 5 to 7 for a brief summary, and the central idea you can put in 1 sentence. Don't forget, guys, the central idea of something is the author's purpose for writing it. And I'm going to give you a definition of central idea to see if this helps. The central idea is the unifying element of a story which ties together all other elements used by an author to tell it. It can be described as the dominant impression or the generic truth. So in other words, what is the author's truth for writing this? What is their reason for sitting down and writing this 3-paragraph piece on why students, kids your age, tend to be couch potatoes? Okay? So make sure you do that. Central idea. Remember, it's just why the author wrote it. Okay? So let's get started now on Fahrenheit 451. So you guys finished part 1. Let's do a quick summary of part 1. So at the end of part 1, we learned real quick that Montag has changed a lot since we first started seeing him at the beginning of part 1. You first see him, he's this loyal firefighter. Of course, you see the firefighters don't fight fires, they burn books. And they burn people's houses down and arrest people who are having books, because books don't encourage individuality. They encourage people to feel, they think that books make you feel less than others, because someone can write and makes you want something else you can't have. So they start burning the books, and we learn that Montag he's married to Mildred, and Mildred is a drug addict, and she's obsessed with these dramas and TV. Matter of fact, their living room has 4 walls. 3 of those 4 walls have TVs on them, and she's constantly living in this alternate reality where she's pretending like she's in these soap operas. She reads along with them. And we see that Montag is growing more and more bored with this life. He meets Clarice McClellan, weird girl that pops up in his neighborhood. She kind of turns him into this direction of questioning life and questioning happiness and why. She then one day vanishes. Weeks and weeks they're talking, every day on the way to work he sees her, and then she vanishes. His wife tells him, oh, by the way, she got hit by a car. And he says, how do you know this? And she basically just says, I know. And that's kind of the end of the story, right? So they move on from that, and then we kind of learn that there's more to being a fireman than meets the eye. They go to their first call, and we see this real creepy looking dog. They call it a hound. It's metal. It's a metal robot with all these legs and this snarling face and a tail with a knife on it or a syringe that has drugs in it to try and knock you out. Anyways, they watch a lady kill herself before they try and arrest her, and they burn all of her books. And Montag comes home, and he can't take it anymore. The smell of kerosene is making him sick, so he tells he tells his wife, I don't want to go to work anymore. I'm going to take a break tomorrow and stay home. I'm feeling sick. And she's like, why? His wife doesn't understand. She's like, you need to go to work. I got another TV I got to pay off here. She really doesn't care that Montag's going through a mental moment. Well, we also learned that Montag stole a book from the old lady's house that they went to. And not only that, but he's been stealing books for quite a while now. And he's built up a small amount of them hidden behind their heater, or the furnace. And so he gets a hold of Captain Beatty, his boss, and says, I'm not coming into work tomorrow. And Beatty refuses to accept that. And he shows up at Montag's door, knocks on his house, comes in, sits down with Montag, and explains to him, what you're going through right now, Montag, is very normal for firemen. It's your point in your career. You're going to question everything. You're going to wonder why we do this. You're going to ask, why am I destroying books? And Beatty says, it's normal. Don't worry about it. I went through it. And Montag's like, okay, well, and then he goes, well, Captain Beatty, what would happen if someone found out that I stole books or I have books? A fireman has books. And he says, well, Montag, that's happened before. We give them 24 to 48 hours to burn the book themselves, and if they don't, we come and we do it for them. So he's kind of weirded out by that. He goes, okay, well, see you tomorrow, Montag. Hope you feel better. So Beatty leaves. He sits down with his wife, and his wife, he shows her the books that he's stolen. She can't believe it. She's freaking out, and he says, don't worry, I'm going to get rid of him in 24 to 48 hours. You heard Captain Beatty. We have to read through these things and see if there's anything we can learn to tell somebody about why we're living like this, or to learn something new. And while they're doing that, they hear another knock at the door, or kind of a scratching at the door, and they all freak out. And Mildred and Montag sit there for a minute frozen. He goes to the door and looks in the peephole. There's nobody there. Well, it turns out it was our good friend, the Hounds. One of them is searching Montag out and has been onto him for a while. Remember back in the earlier in part one, he tried to pet one or touch it at the firehouse, and it growled at him. They have they can smell books, and I think they know Montag has them. So, part 2 is called The Sieve and the Sand. So the way I'm going to have you do this, guys, is I want you to start on page 67 of the ebook. I'm just going to do 10 pages, 10-page sections. And I want you to stop at page 77. And I'll have this in the assignment on Google Classroom. 67 to 77. Again, I want you to pay attention to a couple things here before I get started. I want you to pay attention to how Montag has changed since talking to Captain Beatty, since losing Clarice. It's kind of coming into this new character, if you will. How he's changed. I want you to pay attention to how Mildred's changing. She is changing. We're going to learn more about her too. And how Captain Beatty changes. You get to know him a little bit more. Okay? And in this kind of weird world that they're living in. All right, let's get started. They read the long afternoon through while the cold November rain fell from the sky upon their quiet house. They sat in the hall because the parlor was so empty and gray-looking without its warm lit orange and yellow confetti and skyrockets and women in gold mesh dresses and men in black velvet pulling 100-pound rabbits from silver hats. Their parlor was, well, dead, and Mildred just kept peering in at it with a blank expression as Montag paced the floor and came back and squatted down and read a page from one of the books, as many as 10 times out loud to Mildred. We cannot tell the precise moment when friendship is formed, as in filling a vessel drop by drop. There is at last one drop which makes it run over. So in a series of kindnesses, there is at least one which makes the heart run over. Montag sat listening to the rain. Is that what it was in the girl next door I've tried so hard to figure? Mildred? She's dead, Montag. Let's talk about someone alive, for goodness sakes. Montag did not look back at his wife as he was trembling along the hall to the kitchen, where he stood so long, watching the rain hit the windows, before he came back down the hall in the gray light, watching for the trembles to subside. He opened another book. That favorite subject, myself. He squinted at the wall. That favorite subject, myself. I understand that one, said Mildred. But Clarice's favorite subject wasn't herself. It was everyone else and me. She was the first person in years I've really liked. She was the first person I can remember who looked straight at me as if I counted. Montag lifted the 2 books. You know, these men in these books have been dead for a long time, but I know their words. Their point, one way or another, to Clarice. Outside from the front door, the rain, we then heard a faint scratching. Montag froze. Mildred thrust herself back to the wall and gasped. Oh my gosh, there's someone at the door. Why doesn't the door voice tell us this? I shut off the door voice. Under the door sill, a slow probing sniff, an exhaltation of electric steam. Mildred laughed. It's only a dog, that's what. You want me to shoo him away, Montag? Stay exactly where you are, Mildred. Silence. The cold rain fell, and the smell of blue electricity blew under their locked door. "Let's get back to work," Montag said quietly. Mildred kicked at a book. "Your books aren't people, Montag. You read and I look all around, but there isn't anybody here. What's the deal with these things?" He stared at the parlor that was dead and gray as the waters of an ocean that might teem with life if they switched on the electric sun. "Now," said Mildred, "my family, Montag, is people, okay? They tell me things, I laugh, they laugh, and the colors." "I know, Mildred. And besides, Montag, if Captain Beatty knew about those books..." She thought about it. Her face grew amused and horrified. "You know, Montag, he might come and burn the house. And he'd burn my family. That's awful. Think of our investment, Montag. Why should I have to read? What for? What for? Why?" "Why should I read? I saw the damnedest snake in the world the other night. It was dead, but it was alive. It could see, but it couldn't see. You want to see that snake? It's at emergency hospital where they filed a report on all the junk that snake got out of you. Would you like to go and check it, their file? Maybe you'd look under Guy Montag, or maybe fear or war. Would you like to go to that house that burnt last night and rake the ashes for the bones of the woman who set fire to her own house? What about Clarice McClellan? Where do we look for her? The morgue. Listen." The bombers crossed the sky and crossed over the house, gasping, murmuring, whistling like an immense invisible fan circling in emptiness. "Jesus God," said Montag. "Every hour, so many damn things in the sky. How in the hell do those bombers get up there every single second of our lives? Why doesn't someone want to talk about that, huh? We've started and won 2 atomic wars since 2022. It's because we're having so much fun at home we've forgotten the world. It's because we're so rich and the rest of the world is so poor and we just don't care if they are. You know, I've heard the rumors. The world is starving. Well, we're all well fed. Is it true that the world works hard and we play? Is that the way we've hated so much? I've heard the rumors about hate once a long while over the years. Do you know why, Mildred? I don't, that's for sure. Maybe the books can give us half out of the cave. They just might stop us from making the same damn insane mistakes. I don't hear these idiot bastards in your parlor talking about that. God, Millie, don't you see anything? An hour a day, 2 hours with these books, and just maybe." And then the phone rang. Mildred got up and snatched the phone. "Anne! Yes, the White Clown, it's on tonight." Montag walked to the kitchen, threw down the book. "Oh, Montag!" "You're really stupid," said Montag. "Where do we go from here? Do we turn the books in and forget all this?" He opened the book to read over Mildred's laughter. Poor Millie, he thought. Poor Montag. It's mud to you. Where do you get help from? Where do you find a teacher this late at night? Hold on. He shut his eyes. Yes, of course. He began himself thinking of the green park he went to a year ago. The thought had been with him for many times now recently, but how he remembered, how it was the day at the city park that he'd seen that old man in the black suit hide something quickly in his coat. The old man leapt up as if to run, and Montag told him to wait. All right, I'm going to stop there, guys. Read these last 6 pages to page 77. I want you to pay attention to who this old man is that Montag's talking about, that he saw earlier at one of his earlier investigations, and how he's going to help him. He needs a teacher. He's reading books for the first time, and he doesn't understand what these books mean. He's trying to grasp the meaning. He's got like psychology books and books on relationships and books of all sorts of stuff, and he's trying really hard to understand it. Mildred doesn't care. We see Mildred immediately go right back into her room, starts talking on the phone with a friend of hers about the shows that are coming on that night. She could care less. She's over it. Montag's not going to give up. And I want you to also think about how Montag's changed. Again, he's constantly changing as a character. He's a very dynamic character. Okay, right? He's not flat. Mildred's flat. She's not going to change. Mildred is Mildred through and through. She has moments where we see she kind of perks up a little, but then she goes right back into it. So Mildred, she's flat. Remember, flat characters mean they don't change. Montag's, though, Montag is very, very dynamic. Okay, so take your time, guys. Finish reading. Remember, go all the way to page 77 of part 2. If you have any questions, come on tomorrow's Google Meet. I will be on from, I think y'all's is 2 to 2:30. And don't forget your journal. And I will see you hopefully tomorrow with the Q&A. Have a good day, y'all.